Tonight, an Amazon warehouse in Brampton ordered to close because of COVID-19.
It was literally hard for them, close to impossible for workers to maintain the social distancing.
All workers have been asked to self-isolate after more than 200 tested positive for the virus in just the past few weeks. Plus,
this is one of the few surviving coastal wetlands of any note in the region.
Amazon no longer considering this wetland as the site of what would have been the largest retail warehouse in Canada, just days after CBC broke the story. And
action speak louder than words.
Indigenous MPP Sol Mamakwa says Doug Ford has apologized a day after accusing him of vaccine queue jumping, but he wants the Premier to do more. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Amazon's Brampton warehouse has been shut down with all 5,000 workers ordered to self-isolate amid a COVID-19 outbreak. The order comes into effect in just under an hour. As Dahlia Ashry reports, Amazon is appealing the decision by Peel Public Health.
Employees at this Amazon warehouse located in Brampton, just north of Steeles, will not be returning to work tomorrow. Peel Public Health have asked the employees to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Officials have also confirmed over the past few weeks there have been 240 confirmed cases, 10 of which screened positive for variants of concern. And while the rate of infection in the region has decreased, the rate in the facility has increased.
We recognize the growth in cases. We recognize that there are variants that have now been detected.
Lowe says the facility began detecting cases back in October. He says it's still unknown why there's been such a recent increase, but that it's being investigated. Meanwhile, Amazon Canada says in a statement, we just completed our most recent round of mandatory testing with less than 1% positivity rate, and there appears to be little risk of spread within our facility. We do not believe the data supports this closure, and we will appeal this decision. This closure may have some short-term impacts on our Canadian customers, but we will work to recover as quickly as possible. Rajdeep Dion works at the facility throughout the pandemic and says she's always felt safe.
No, I am not worried that I can have COVID here because they have every safety precaution.
But Gagandeep Kaur, a warehouse workers advocate, says from what she's heard from those who work at the Brampton facility,
close to impossible for workers to maintain the social distancing, and that's, I would say, caused all this.
Kaur says the workers aren't unionized and many are new immigrants.
They're just too scared because they feel that if they would speak up, they might become the target. The employer actually needs to make sure that workers don't go back to the same working conditions.
Amazon appeals the closure, and they've also confirmed that the employees quarantining will be paid. Now, the city of Brampton earlier this week diverted 3 bus routes, one which leads to the facility after 9 bus operators tested positive for COVID-19 over this past month. Now, the employees are expected to return back to the facility on March 27th. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Brampton.
And Amazon will not be building the largest retail warehouse in Canada on the site of a protected wetland near the Pickering-Ajax border. This latest revelation comes just days after CBC News first reported that Amazon was considering the possibility. Philip Lee Shannock has more.
This was supposed to be the site of Canada's largest retail warehouse. Under pressure from the province, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority was set to rubber stamp a permit to destroy these wetlands and make way for an Amazon facility.
In the authority's presentation.
A hearing was underway about what conditions would be imposed on the developer when TRCA lawyer Barbara Montgomery asked Ira Kagan, the lawyer for the developer, to comment on some breaking news.
I just have one question for the applicant, and it's based on recent information that I've become aware of. And that question relates to a news item that was just reported on CBC.
I am not aware of a news article from today.
The TRCA chairperson reminded the hearing that no new information could be introduced, but it may have made it all unnecessary. In an emailed statement to CBC, Amazon said the site in question was no longer being considered for a fulfillment center, saying, "We were always considering multiple sites for our expansion, and we take environmental issues very seriously." The province had gone to great lengths to get the online retail giant to consider the location, even granting a ministerial zoning order to fast-track construction by foregoing public consultation. In an email, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which granted the order, said they did so at the request of the City of Pickering, so what happens next is up to it. This afternoon, Pickering Mayor David Ryan tweeted out his disappointment at Amazon's decision, which would have created 2,000 jobs and tens of millions in revenue for the city. But he tweeted the appropriate next step is to pause any immediate disruption to the wetlands, adding what's needed now is reflection and consultation. Despite the developments over the development, environmental groups vow to fight on. They'll be in court Monday to challenge the province's use of zoning orders that sidelined the Conservation Authority in the first place.
It is issuing them at a pace that is unprecedented, and it is issuing those ministers' zoning orders in places where they're just inappropriate.
It's not clear whether Amazon is still considering another parcel of land, less than a kilometer to the east of Duffins Creek wetlands, in Ajax, on golf course land already zoned for a warehouse. Philip Lishanok, CBC News, Toronto.
The province is adjusting capacity limits for regions like Toronto in the grey lockdown stage when it comes to weddings, funerals, and religious ceremonies. Effective Monday, those services will be permitted to allow up to 15% of total occupancy indoors or up to 50 people outdoors. Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health says these changes will help keep the province on the right path. MPP Saul Mamakwa says he has received an apology from the Premier. This comes after comments Doug Ford made during question period yesterday, where he wrongly accused Mamakwa of vaccine queue jumping. Mamakwa was invited by Muskrat Dam First Nation Chief Gordon Beardy to receive his first dose of the vaccine last month. He says that while he appreciated the Premier's apology, more is needed to move forward.
And I think we need to be able to look at, it's not me that he needs to apologize to, but it's, Indigenous people across Ontario to undo the damage that was done on the vaccination strategy that we're moving towards.
Mamakwa says the conversation with the Premier lasted about a minute and a half, and Ford had invited him to meet at his office. But Mamakwa says he would rather see him in the fly-in community in Northern Ontario, where there is a water, housing, and mental health crisis. Toronto will begin holding vaccination clinics for some seniors next week. Today, the city launched the online portal to make those appointments. This as the province asked residents not to travel outside their region to get a shot. Ali Chiasson has the latest.
I'm happy. A good day? Yeah, I'm happy. I don't know, I'm happy. That's all I can say.
Ever since pharmacies began taking appointments this week, people between the ages of 60 and 64 have been rolling up their sleeves for the AstraZeneca shot. It's not a full ticket to back to normal just yet, so
I still will keep the distancing, have my mask on,
Different pharmacy locations have stock, but appointments are booking up fast.
We're doing a waiting list until the Ontario government tells them when they're going to get more, right? So in the meantime, it's just to sit and wait.
The rollout has seen its fair share of bumps. Yesterday, some people were getting shots by just walking into a pharmacy. And today, the mayor of Aurora, in a since-deleted tweet, suggested region hopping to Toronto to get one. Both things not officially by the books. But today, the vaccine momentum continued in a big way for those 80 and over. The public health site has been up and running to sign people up to get a shot at one of Toronto's mass vaccination sites. In just 5 hours after the site went live, nearly 5,000 people booked an appointment. But for now, though, people aged 65 to 79 have to wait until Phase 2 begins in April. And so do people like 27-year-old Leora Seton.
I have dilated cardiomyopathy, and I also have congestive heart failure stage C. If I were to get COVID, it would pretty much spell the end of me.
Seton had a call from her pharmacist who knew of her condition and encouraged her to sign up this week.
So I put myself on about 20 different wait lists.
And within a couple of hours, they were all canceled.
I was just begging and pleading with the pharmacist. I said, if you have extra vaccines at the end of the day, would I be able to take one of those? And she said no.
Seton thinks the scope of Phase 1 has been too narrow.
And they're ready for me. And, I'll happily say, hit me with your best shot. But I don't think that's coming anytime soon, unfortunately.
While we wait to see if the next phases will be any smoother, we do know it will be larger. Ontario is set to vaccinate up to 8.5 million people in Phase 2, which would include people like Leora and those in between the age ranges getting shots now. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The pandemic has caused a huge increase in the number of food insecure families in the GTA. Organizations that help feed these families are struggling to keep up with demand, with many now worrying about how much longer their funding will continue. Greg Ross reports.
All right. These boxes of food were delivered today to families in need in the Jane and Finch area. Since the start of the pandemic, truckloads like this and bigger are delivered in this neighborhood on a weekly basis.
Well, the immediate need that we saw within days of the pandemic being announced was for food support. There's a lot of families that were already very much living on the edge before the pandemic.
Prior to COVID-19, 24% of Black households in Toronto were food insecure. We knew that with the lockdown measures that started with COVID last year, that was going to be magnified.
Zakaya Tafari runs the African Food Basket, one of the many organizations providing food in the Jane and Finch area. He says for the past year, they have struggled to keep up with the demand.
At first, we were supporting 80 households a week. Throughout the pandemic, and especially during the second lockdown, we saw that increase to 500 households per week.
And he says they have a waiting list with 2,000 more families in need. Funding from the government has kept them going so far during the pandemic, but the current funding is set to end in a matter of weeks.
As of now, we don't know how we're going to be able to sustain what we're doing past the end of March.
The province will release its yearly budget on March 24th. We reached out to ask if funding for groups like the African Food Basket would continue. A spokesperson said Ontario has provided hundreds of millions of dollars in relief funds for the most vulnerable during the pandemic, adding municipalities also have the flexibility to decide how that funding is used. The NDP representative for the area is pushing for more help.
It's so important that we continue to invest in them, fund them, and provide all the assistance because they turn around and they help people in our community every day.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Because I have all my life savings in this project. It's all I have.
After the break, dozens of people put deposits down on new townhomes in Richmond Hill. But years later, they're being told their agreements might not be honored. We'll tell you why coming up. Plus,
so seasonal temperatures return, but the sunshine here as well into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. We'll take a look at the forecast and about the clock Saturday night. That reminder coming up too.
Welcome back. Dozens of home buyers say they've been left in limbo after they bought into a pre-construction project in Richmond Hill. They put deposits down on homes only to see construction delayed for years. Now they're being told their sales agreement might not be honored because the project has changed hands. The ordeal is heading to court this month. As Farah Morali tells us, some who invested their life savings in the project are now anxiously awaiting the outcome.
Anna Pierce looks out at where she expected her townhouse to be, a place that was supposed to be a fresh start.
I was going through a difficult time in my life in 2016. I had lost my job, going through a divorce. I had lost my home.
Pierce bought during pre-construction. She's now learned 5 years later her purchase agreement might not be honored.
It's what really upsets me. I'm sorry. Because I have all my life savings in this project. It's all I have. And to think that I might not ever get to see the home that I waited for 5 years breaks my heart.
Pierce is one of dozens who bought into this Richmond Hill development. Construction has been delayed for years. The developer, Ideal Developments, went in and out of receivership, then partnered with another company, Grand Grace Development. But that company is refusing to honor the old sales agreements.
I was shocked.
Marjan Asmani only found out after she saw the project she'd bought into years ago was up for sale again, under the new developer and with a higher price tag.
This is what's happening. I was frustrated, I was angry, and I was shocked because I wouldn't believe that it could happen.
Ideal Developments and Grand Grace are now heading to court. A lawyer for Ideal told CBC News the company intends to resolve all of the purchase agreements. He said there's a court order prohibiting any dealings with the properties for now, but couldn't say more. We reached out to Grand Grace Development, but they didn't provide comment. This lawyer says she believes pre-construction buys are often a good way to get into the market, but
if you're looking maybe to buy something on a grander or larger scale in a condominium or a townhouse complex, do your due diligence and try to find out as much information about that developer as you can.
This is not fair.
Meanwhile, some buyers say even if they get their deposits back, years later, they're now priced out of the market.
We did our part. We paid the money, we get the approval, and we did everything that we were asked for. This is not what we deserve after 6 years.
For Pierce, it's not just the deposit that's at stake. It's the extra $80,000 she paid to buy the unit off someone else at the time.
This is my plan A, and I hope it will, pan out because it just has to. There is no other plan.
The fate of her dream home now lies in the hands of the court. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Remember, if you have a story you'd like us to look into, send us an email, torontotips@cbc.ca. Clear skies this evening and remaining clear overnight. Pretty cool out there, though. Currently -2 degrees downtown, feeling like -8. Let's go now to our Colette Kennedy with a look at the forecast. And Colette, another pretty gorgeous sunny day. I did spend the early part of the day outside before the temperatures started dipping a little bit.
Yeah, it was quite the progression. We had the warmer air, and I'm going to show you in just a minute, like earlier in the day. And then as the cold front came through, really just pushing that temperature down. And also nice to have the sunshine, but very blustery as that front passed with those west to northwesterly winds and strong gusts. Well, what this front is doing is just ushering in, it's the leading edge of another air mass coming in, and it's a cooler one. So just pushing temperatures compared to the last few days, cool, but really back towards seasonal. High pressure is really going to anchor in here, though, towards the Great Lakes, and that makes for nice weather in terms of dry and less active weather. In most cases, there's a slight caveat, which I'll get to, but sunshine into Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday before the next system comes in by about Tuesday. And before bed Saturday night, just remember to spring that clock ahead an hour. So we're going to have more daylight in the evenings, but it's going to take longer to get the sunshine in the morning. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. At lunchtime, double digits, 11 degrees. Hamilton 10, St. Catharines 11. The front was working its way in. Those winds got strong, and by 5, yeah, look at that, a 9-degree drop in the temperature there in just those 5 hours. So what's ahead? I said there's just a few little spots. So, okay, because of the winds, they are going to be letting off, but because of those, just a few flurries making their way off Georgian Bay and down towards the north shore of Lake Ontario here on the west end. That's really it. Then sunshine, and then into Saturday, what we're going to see is just as we're starting to push into the overnight hours into Sunday, we could see just a little return. The winds shift a bit, they get a little bit stronger, and so a chance for just a few really isolated flurries. So nothing too significant there. It's into next week. Like I said, we're going to hang on to this weather pattern, and doesn't get active till Tuesday there. Overnight tonight, though, takes a little, adjusting back to seasonal lows. So -7 there, Windsor, 9 degrees for tomorrow, and London, 6 degrees. The winds will turn to the southwest. The sooner they do and they pick up, the better chance of getting those temperatures up, those numbers up. And we will see those southwesterly winds eventually work their way tomorrow into the GTA as well. A look at your overnight temperatures. Keep in mind tomorrow morning there'll be that wind chill factor. It's going to be a cool start, and later in the afternoon the temperatures will start to spike here. A lot of sunshine, as I say, to go around. Sunday's high, though, there's that core of colder air moving in, so 3, and look at Sunday into Monday, -10. That'll be the coolest night we have, and then we're going to sort of rebound as the next system comes in. It's that thing again where it picks the temperatures up as a warm front arrives, so the temperatures go in the other direction, and a little bit of mixed precipitation there into Tuesday, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Before we go tonight, brother and sister Anne and David Powell are among the world's best puppeteers. For nearly 5 decades, the duo has been putting on shows for kids and adults alike. Like most performers, they've been affected by the pandemic, but they have found a way to make sure the magic continues. Take a look.
I happen to have one little guy on my desk. He's always here. There he is. We're in our 47th year right now. So, you know, if you were 47, you could quite easily say, well, I'm almost 50. So that's what we figure now. Well, we are brother and sister. When I was 8 and David was 7, our parents made the mistake of giving me a Pelham puppet, a string puppet for Christmas. And we both thought, oh, that's neat. And we just started collecting them. Dad made us a stage. We started just performing for the family, making them watch. And it just sort of grew from there, really. It wasn't something we ever thought as children, oh, let's do this as our career.
I don't know why we're so committed to puppetry. We just are. We love it. And, you know, it's a really, I know maybe one of the things is it's such an unexplored art form. What we do is we experiment. Every show we build is quite different from every show we built before. It's building on thoughts.
And just the exploring new ideas and working with somebody you know really, really well is very satisfying, I must say. It gives me the opportunity to still be playing, I guess, even though I'm a senior. You know, we have a studio for, you know, nearly 50 years of our shows, its materials and tools in our office. We couldn't just say, okay, pandemic's here, we're out. What do we do with all that stuff?
First thing we did really was we created videos of a few of the workshops we do for schools as something for people at home with their families and their kids to do, and put those out. So building toy theaters out of a cardboard box, or doing shadow theater, making a screen in a cardboard box.
And another big part of it was just, we figured it was really important, because we couldn't perform live, couldn't teach, couldn't have people into our studio to learn about puppet making, puppetry and stuff, to just keep in touch with everybody. So, you know, that's partly why we were offering the workshop just free on our website and just letting people know that they were there, keeping in touch with the puppetry community with regular Zoom get-togethers and stuff.
But what we're thinking is that the pandemic will end, audiences and participants in workshops will be coming back, but we'll have learned the skills of how to do these virtual things, and we can add that as an extra stream to what we're doing. So in fact, it might enhance our world.
Yeah, all I'd say is after this is over, come back.
Yes,
please. We're still here for a while yet.
And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can get caught up on our website anytime. Head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.